Hello, and we are live. Welcome back to another Thursday Facebook Live with myself, Sam. I'm the pain and performance expert here at Sheffield Sports Medicine, and I'm here to answer a lot of your burning questions and discuss some really important and popular topics regarding sport, injury, and diet, and basically just all around health related stuff. So today's topic, if you haven't seen already, is strength and conditioning, and why is it important? All right, so most people should have heard of strength and conditioning. Basically, it's a way of describing going to the gym or doing certain exercises that will either improve your sporting performance or make you more robust for your chosen sport or activity. Okay, so that's what basically strength and conditioning is, and as a strength and conditioning coach, that's what we kind of look at is how to improve someone's sporting performance or how to actually improve their robustness so that they don't get injured and are more likely to perform at a higher standard for longer. Okay, so the question is, why is this so important? Well, one, we've already kind of answered that, and that is because obviously you want to be better at your chosen sport or your specific sport. All right, so no matter what it may be, from tennis to boxing, okay, you always want to improve and you want to be better. Now, one of the ways to get better is obviously do more of it, okay, because the more you do, the better you get at something. All right, however, this is where strength and conditioning comes in, because there are also ways to improve your sporting performance through that. So things like improving your power, your speed, your strength, agility, okay, even reactions. These are all things that kind of fall under the strength and conditioning bracket. So don't get it wrong, doing the activity is really good because obviously you learn a lot and you're going through the motions and you get the technique bang on, okay? But what you can do with strength and conditioning is increase your power, your speed, your strength, agility, and things like that. And that's why it's really important that you do your strength and conditioning to improve your performance. So when we look at like that 1% elite bracket of athletes, where it's really competitive at the high end, and you're trying to push that 1% extra out of them, or trying to give that little bit of edge to actually take that first spot or win that match, then that's where strength and conditioning becomes really important. Because if someone's strength and conditioning is bang on and their training for their certain sport is bang on as well, they're more likely to improve, perform better, and get the win. Okay, so that is what we're kind of looking at today in terms of strength and conditioning. And like I said, it's so important to do that. The other side to strength and conditioning that is a bit away from the sport specific and sport performance side is actually robustness and kind of injury prevention training. And basically what we're trying to do here when we do strength and conditioning for prevention is we're trying to make the body so robust and adapted to that certain specific exercise or activity that nothing can break it down. Because a lot of times you'll find that if someone starts doing a new sport very quickly and they're not used to load, then what happens is their body will just start to load incorrectly. It's not used to that type of load, not used to those types of movements and exercises, and something will either start to load problematic, in which case you get load issues, or it's just going to give way because it's not strong enough to support that type of movement or that explosiveness, and therefore you end up with all sorts of injuries, from ligament problems to tendonitis to even possible avulsion fractures as well. So it's really, really important that we look at strength and conditioning from both sides, a sport performance side and also a kind of prevention and robustness side. And to do that, you have to look at the individual sport. What do they do? What do their demands require? Are they an explosive type of athlete? So they're doing a lot of huge movements very quickly with a lot of load, or are they doing things over a long period of time, or are they a bit of both? Okay, and a great example of a bit of both is, like I mentioned last week, combat sports is a bit of both. So yep, that is basically strength and conditioning in a nutshell. What it can be. There are many aspects to it in terms of what exercises for certain things and what you should do for strength, for speed, etc. But that is a huge topic that would take a long time to go into, and obviously you'd have to show people what I mean by that. But a good example would be, for an explosive athlete like a jumper or a sprinter, plyometrics. So plyometrics is basically a certain movement that is explosive, okay, and requires a lot of power and is very fast. And what that does is help recruit type 2 fibers, so fast twitch fibers, but also help people basically explode, use really fast contractile speeds and with some strength as well. So they can jump further, jump higher. A great example, long jumpers, basketballers, okay, they all need to jump higher, and that's kind of where the plyometric comes under. So that is just one type of example, okay? And so that's kind of, like I said, that's kind of strength and conditioning in a nutshell. It's either for sport performance or for prevention, injury prevention, and robustness is a good word. Okay, and it's something we do a load here. I do. So when I get elite athletes who are not necessarily in pain or have a problem, but they just want to improve that performance, they want to get that 1% better, then we need to look at them as a whole and think, where do you need to improve the most? Okay, what do you need? So we take boxing for an example. All right, you might have a really fast boxer, great hands, great foot speed. Okay, but he might be lacking a bit of power. All right. So what we need to work on there is obviously power, explosive speed, mainly of body, but also lower body, because you've got to think where that power comes from when you're boxing. All right. When you're boxing, your power is actually coming from the floor, from your legs. Okay. Okay. In rotation, when you dip your legs down, come up. Okay. That's where you're getting your power from. So we need to have a look at the whole chain of power and see how we can increase and improve each part, so it's explosive and powerful, so that they can get that knockout punch, so they can get the power in those punches. And that's what kind of strength and conditioning coaches will look for. So we need to build explosive power in the strength in the foot, in the legs, and then we need to transfer that up to here. So we need to have maybe look at rotation. Okay, how can we create more power in rotation and more speed in rotation, and also sport specific pushing. So with a medicine ball, for example, push. How can we create more force there? And then look at the whole chain and put it into action. All right, and see how they perform. Okay, so that's the best example I can think of for a strength and conditioning sport specific elite athlete, and which we work with all the time. We work boxers, tennis players, all sorts. You name it, we have probably worked with it, or I certainly have, thinking about it. So yes, really important. Strength and conditioning, vital. If you are someone who's maybe not an elite athlete, but you're someone who's also doing a lot but not to an elite level, you should still be strength and conditioning. Okay, maybe not to the degree that these elite athletes do strength and condition, but to a degree where you are robust. And this is where it really it comes down to, a lot of people come in, especially runners, for example, and once we get them out of pain, we usually take them up to the gym and do some strength and conditioning with them, because at the end of the day, yes, it's great to get someone out of pain and really important, but how can we make sure that their body is adaptable and it can be robust so that pain doesn't come back or that issue doesn't come back? And that's where strength and conditioning also is really important, because we need to make sure that they can do everything that their sport requires them to do safely, and they've got that stability and strength to support their own joints and weight. Okay, so let's move on to some frequently asked questions regarding strength and conditioning. So the first one we've got here is, how often should I strength train? And that's a really good question, because it does vary depending on your level of sport, but elite level athletes usually are kind of strength conditioning every single day to a degree. Okay, so it'll be obviously it won't be the same strength and conditioning every day, but there will be a different aspect of strength and conditioning every day, apart from maybe 1 or 2 days where they will be doing either hard cardio work or just working on technique. But they do strength and conditioning minimum 4 days a week minimum. Okay, because it's so important to improve your sporting performance, especially, like I said, at that elite level where you need that extra 1% to beat the next person. That's why it's so important. However, if you're just a journeyman amateur, then you're looking at 3 times, I would say, for that kind of level. But in my opinion, it doesn't matter if you do sport. You should always be training strength in the gym, always making sure your body is robust and strong to actually perform. But not just because even if you don't do sport, it's still important. You still want to walk. You still may even want to run with your kids, pick them up. Okay, and that's why strength training is so important. And I would highly recommend anyone, no matter what age you are, to do some resistance training, do some strength training, because it is vital for your health and vital for your future as well. If you want to, have for example, grandkids in the future, if you want to be able to pick them up, because the amount of times I see in clinic, you have people that are 60, 70 years old and they're really frail and they don't have a lot of strength. The truth is because either something in the body has let them down and then they've stopped moving and their mobility is decreased and their strength decreased, or they've just been sedentary for a long period of time, in which case, everything has gone. It is atrophied, as they call it. So strength train, really important. Make sure you do that. So next question, how long should I train for? What are some good strength and conditioning tips? All right. So how long should I train for? So let's just start with the other one. So the tips first, okay? So in terms of looking at tips for strength and conditioning, one, depends what you do, all right? Are you someone who does sport, or do you just walk, maybe, do a bit of running here, etc.? Or do you have a specific sport, boxing, tennis, rugby, football, okay? If that is the case, if you do have a specific sport, make your training or your strength and conditioning training specific to that sport. All right, rugby players, they need to explode, they need to be able to drive, okay? So a great exercise is kind of the sledge push or a wheel roll, okay? There's so many really good exercises, but you just have to be specific to your sport so that you can get the best out of it. But it's also, like I said, really important just to train normal things. You always want to be training legs because we need them, really important. Always want to be moving and running. So when it comes to specific exercises, it wants to be specific to you, what you do in life, and what your sport is. And then you need to work out, do I need to work on explosive power? Do I need to work on endurance? Do I need to work on strength, static strength maybe? Okay, then you can start tailoring that workout to you specifically, because there's only one you, there's not a billion yous, okay? So you have to make it specific to yourself. And this is why, going off topic a little bit, this is why, you get all these training programs and diet plans, and they don't always work for people. And the reason is because they worked for one person, so they've sold it, and now they believe it will work for everyone, but, it's entirely not true. Everyone's a bit different, everyone has DNA, everybody's body adapts differently. Some people are more power, some people are more endurance-based, okay? Don't get me wrong, you can change it over time, but our DNA does have natural aspects of either endurance, sport specific, power, or strength athlete, okay? So in terms of how long you should train for, to be honest, if you're training on your own, I believe you can get through a good session and get everything done you need in about 45 minutes, maybe to an hour, depending on what type of day it is. But anything over that, it depends if you're just, having a big rest or on your phone or talking to someone in the gym, then it might be a bit longer. But if you're focused and you just go straight ahead, it should take about 45 minutes to an hour for a strength and conditioning session. Okay, so moving on, what are some good strength and conditioning exercises for beginners? How do I choose the best exercises for me? So good strength and conditioning exercises for beginners are things like squats. All right, so there's a lot of research out there that there's a nice systematic review actually that showed that people who squat later on in life will live longer. So basically showing, when you get older, if you can still squat, chances are you're going to live longer. All right, and it makes sense when you really think about it, but squatting is so important. Everybody should be able to squat. Everybody should be able to squat their body weight to a degree based on their age, but sometimes age doesn't really play a matter, especially if you've been training all your life, you should be still strong. So squatting, 100%. Make sure you're squatting strength and conditioning wise. Deadlifts as well. Squatting and deadlifts are your number one go-to for strength and conditioning, and they are vital because they're really important movements. They're functional as well, and they just kind of work the whole body really, and make you strong and robust and stable as well. So that's where I'd start. Squats, deadlifts, make sure you master them and get better at them over time. Increase the load, increase the weight, get stronger with them. They are the two main exercises that most people use for strength and conditioning. And it kind of goes for any sport as well. It will help with pretty much any sports, will squat and deadlifts. Okay. And then follow-up question, how do I choose the best exercises for me? So we've already gone over that. That just depends on your sport, your specific sport, what it requires, explosiveness, endurance, strength, okay, and your level of sport as well. But ultimately, you want to be choosing something that suits your sport and go with that. Okay, because I mean, like I said at the start, some sports require a mix of both power and speed and strength and endurance, a bit of everything basically, which is absolutely fine because you can train that. That's absolutely fine. You might not be able to train all of it on one day, but at least you can split it up. Maybe endurance for one day, power the next. Okay, that's how I would do it. That's how I choose my exercises. Okay, but if you're someone who doesn't really care, or I don't know if that's the right word, who doesn't really want to because they don't have a chosen sport, they don't really want to improve their sporting performance, they just want to get to the gym and go get stronger, then I'll stick to your compound movements, deadlifts, squats, bench press, shoulder press, okay? All those things are going to get you strong as long as you're working the right rep range and as long as you keep optimal overloading as well. So when you start getting stronger, make sure you up the weight. Don't keep the same weight, okay? Because your body will just adapt. All right, we wanted to keep adapting, and by doing that, we optimal overloads, which increase the weight over time. Okay,